Sadly, Firefox is losing users. What was once one of the most popular web browsers now only has about 3.54% of the browser market, which puts it on about the same level as Edge in terms of popularity. And sadly, Firefox is only really losing users. Since 2019, they have lost more than 30 million users. Even in the open source community, I regularly see people having disagreements with Mozilla and consequently jumping ship to Brave and other web browsers. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Firefox, and once upon a time I was a hardcore Firefox user, so my intention with this video isn't to trash talk Firefox. Instead, I want to explain why it is that people are leaving Firefox, and perhaps give a few suggestions as to what Mozilla can do about it, and I'm going to be talking about that right now on the Linux Lounge. So I think that the first reason why Firefox is losing users, more than anything, is that the browser market today is extremely centered around smart devices and smartphones. This hurts Firefox in numerous ways, but I think that the main problem that Firefox has is that their mobile web browser is sadly not that great, which is honestly not something that I blame them for. It's only recently that Mozilla have really started focusing on their mobile browser efforts, whereas Chrome has been at it for years. So it makes sense that the Chrome mobile browser would be better for the time being. I definitely do think that focusing more on their mobile browser would be the right move for Mozilla though, especially given that's where most people are these days. Sadly though, even once Firefox on mobile is on par with Chrome, which it absolutely will be someday, Mozilla still has to contend with the fact that Chrome is the default browser on most mobile devices, so therefore people are less likely to look for an alternative. Remember, the only reason that Chrome and Firefox are so popular on desktop is that Microsoft's browser offerings have historically been awful. But still, I think with a decent marketing push, Firefox could definitely become more popular on mobile. I think that another problem that Firefox is facing, and why it's not really gaining new users, is that it doesn't have the same level of marketing behind it that other browsers do. I think part of the reason why something like Brave, for instance, is so popular is because they had a huge marketing push behind them, with a clear message about why the end user should use Brave. Firefox doesn't really have anything like that, which sadly isn't really something that they can do much about. Marketing takes a huge amount of money that would be better spent on software development. However, when it comes to increasing your user numbers, it's also very important that you do get yourself into people's heads and keep yourself there through effective marketing. So I guess the solution to this problem is for everyone to go out there and donate to Mozilla. I think that the final problem that Mozilla is facing is perhaps the saddest one. By most measurements, Firefox performs worse than Chrome and other Chromium-based browsers. Some sites don't even work correctly at all in Firefox. Part of the reason for this is obviously that Chrome is backed by Google, so obviously has a much larger budget to optimize things. But another reason for this is that web developers just aren't really optimizing for Firefox anymore. Now we can talk about why these two things are all day long, but when it comes to discussing user numbers, it doesn't really matter too much. Though Firefox is a much more ethical product, most people sadly don't really care about that. Sadly, no one wants to use the second best product, even if it is more ethical. And I'm not really sure what the solution to this is, since it's a bit of a catch-22. Firefox ideally needs more users to improve, but it can't get more users because it needs to be better in order to get them. I think realistically the only solution here is that as the open source community we need to push Firefox hard. We need to be donating to Mozilla, and most importantly we need to be telling people about Firefox. Now, I realise that this video has all been a bit doom and gloom, but I would like to put a little bit of hope in here too. Everyone seems to think that if Firefox loses enough users, it'll be the end of the world and Firefox will no longer be able to keep going. But I'd just like to point out that no matter what, Firefox will always have a user base of hardcore free software enthusiasts willing to keep it alive. I think that the worst that could happen is that Mozilla would have to downsize quite a lot and the development of Firefox might slow down quite a lot. But I think that there are still easily enough free software advocates to keep Firefox alive. So I think to conclude this video, I want to end on a hopeful note. No matter what, our community is strong, and I believe that the Firefox web browser will have a long and prosperous future thanks to the free and open source community. So go ahead and use Firefox with pride.